Islam Makhachev might have 3 fights, including Dela Matalena. That right there is where our energy should be spent as Islam fans. How in the world does it feel like another dominant champion may be saying it's about time?
I'm anticipating, yes. I'm anticipating we'll see him for hopefully maybe another 3 fights total. You know, let's see who's in the works on that. And
if I'm gonna be alive, I'm gonna be here for Usman, Umar, Abubakar, Zuba, Islam, like Tagir, like all of these guys, I think maybe like 34 Islam can finish.
In a stunning twist, Daniel Cormier addressed Islam Makhachev's choice, expressing disbelief at only 3 fights left. His warning, the UFC might never be the same again. He warns that it could tear the very fabric of the UFC apart. Meanwhile, Javier Mendez outlined what he envisions as the final stretch of Islam Makhachev's career, anticipating that the lightweight champion has about 3 more fights left in the tank. Mendez emphasized that they'll need to assess what matchups make the most sense. But first, all focus is on getting past JDM, a fighter he recognizes as a tough and dangerous challenge standing in their way.
I really don't want to anticipate what could happen there because that's a lot of what ifs, you know. Islam is actually 34 too, or gonna be 34, so it isn't like he's really gonna be around much longer, I don't think, you know.
Do you anticipate we see him around for at least another couple of fights?
I'm anticipating, yes. I'm anticipating we'll see him for hopefully maybe another 3 fights total. You know, let's see who's in the works on that. And let's say, you know, if we get by JDM, which is, you know, I don't want to really say we're gonna get by him because this he's a tough customer, and you know, I'm gonna be positive in the fact that we're gonna win, but it's kind of hard to overlook JDM, you know.
Echoing the theme of strategic planning, Khabib Nurmagomedov revealed his commitment to standing by his teammates throughout their UFC journeys, providing guidance and support from the corner when they step into the octagon. When it comes to Islam Makhachev, Khabib shared insight into their long-term vision, suggesting it's highly likely Makhachev will hang up the gloves around the age of 34, following a carefully mapped out plan they've crafted together for his career.
Of course, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here. If I'm gonna be alive, I'm gonna be here for Usman, Umar, Abubakar, Zuba, Islam, like Tagir, like all of these guys, I think maybe like 34 Islam can finish.
Building on that, Daniel urged fans to focus their energy on appreciating what could be the final chapter of Islam Makhachev's remarkable run, suggesting that Islam might have just 3 fights left, including the showdown with JDM.
Islam Makhachev might have 3 fights, including Dela Matalena. That right there is where our energy should be spent as Islam fans. How in the world does it feel like another dominant champion may be saying it's about time? If Islam comes out and tells us, I've got 3 fights left, we should all go, man, we got to lock in. Because you know that it's a special time, right? It's a special reign that Islam has created at 155. Why? Why, when you're in your mid-30s, are you looking to kind of walk away from the game that you are dominating? We saw Khabib do it, and he never looked back. He never looked back after he left the UFC. That should be worrisome.
Continuing his reflections, Cormier highlighted that Makhachev is dominating the sport and now has the chance to cement his legacy as a 2-division champion. While acknowledging that the sport will eventually see its top stars replaced by new names, DC reflected on how bittersweet it is when the big names, the ones who defined an era, begin to walk away.
He's the world champ. He's dominating. He's getting an opportunity to become a double champ. Why do we have to look at that again? I think that we are in a time right now in fighting that, for me as a fan, is very sad. I don't believe for a second, though, that it's going to change. I think there will be new guys that will ultimately step right in line with where those guys leave. The Michael Chandlers, the Justin Gaethjes, the Charles Oliveras. There will always be another guy. But when they all start to walk away, it's sad for the fan, especially the new fan that made his way into MMA based on what those guys did for so long in that division. To us as mixed martial arts fans, we have so many more fights that we want these guys to fight. We want to see him against Dela. We want to see him against Usman, and we want to see him against Ilia Topuria. It's crazy.
Offering another perspective, MMA analyst and commentator Kion Kimura weighed in on Islam Makhachev's future, suggesting that fans should not be shocked if the upcoming bout with JDM ends up being his last. At this stage of his career, Cormier noted, Makhachev is focused on the biggest, most meaningful challenges. While Jack Dela Matalena might not be the sport's biggest star, the chance to capture a second title represents a massive opportunity for Makhachev. Beyond that, Cormier questioned what other major fights would truly motivate the champion to stick around.
Will Islam Makhachev's next fight be his last? So this may suck to hear, but I feel like Islam Makhachev's MMA career will soon be coming to an end. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if his next fight for the welterweight title against Jack Della Maddalena would be his last. Because at this point of his career, Islam is looking for the biggest fights, and although Jack isn't the biggest name, the opportunity to become a 2-division champion is huge for Islam's legacy. But if he wins that, what other big fights are there? Do you really think Islam is going to be defending the welterweight title against the current crop of welterweights right now who don't have huge name value? If anything, I could see him doing one more fight after at middleweight in order to become a 3-division champion. Plus, Islam is 33 years old now.
Speaking for himself, Islam Makhachev shared his perspective on retirement, making it clear that for him, the decision would not be about chasing records or hitting a certain age. Instead, he explained that the time to step away will come when he feels he can no longer compete with the younger, hungrier fighters in the division. For now though, Makhachev sees no reason to discuss retirement, confident that he still has plenty left to accomplish inside the octagon.
You've seen somebody do that in your camp and in our sport. I did it. I was like, I'm done. I don't need to fight anymore.
You know what? My opinion, it's not like records. It's not like age. My opinion, it's I go to the gym and I told you, the all kids want to show something to me.
Yeah.
And when I understand, I cannot stop the people. I cannot like compete with the young guys. And I'm thinking about retirement. But right now, it's not time to talk about this because I know I can do more and I improve all my fights.
Before I know, when I have like amateur professional career and I won the World Cup, she say, hey, stop. You don't have Olympic Games in your sport. That's why World Cup, this is like biggest tournament. Yeah. Now you have to stop. But in this sport, you never stop. It's always something.
Adding fuel to the speculation, MMA Guru speculated that Islam is not the type to linger in the sport, trying to build a narrative around being the GOAT, and may instead choose to walk away at the peak of his accomplishments.
But if Makhachev wins this, I reckon he retires. Because it would be hard to have an argument against him being some kind of GOAT, you know, of the sport. And I don't think Makhachev is like, I'm not going to retire until I'm 100% undeniably the GOAT of the sport, no questions asked. I think he's okay to be one of the GOATs of the sport. And if he wins at welterweight right now, he arguably is. He arguably is the top dog. I'd say Natty GOAT because Jones has been tested positive before.
Shifting focus to a potential super fight, Daniel Cormier highlighted what he sees as the biggest storyline surrounding Islam Makhachev this week, the growing buzz that Makhachev and Kamaru Usman could be on a collision course. Cormier pointed out that it appears both fighters are open to the idea of facing each other, signaling that the door may be wide open for a high-stakes showdown between the two champions.
I believe the biggest story of the week in regards to Makhachev is, one, sounds like him and Kamaru Usman are okay fighting. And if you are close to that team of fighters in Dominance MMA with Ali Abdelaziz and those guys, you know how much they try to avoid their guys fighting unless it is for a championship. So for these guys to have been in such a small circle for as long as they have been, for Kamaru to just openly go, hey, my goals are more important to me than his goals are to him. And if he is to become champion in my weight class, I want to do that. I respect that.
On that note, addressing the potential for a Makhachev bout, Kamaru Usman acknowledged that if a clash materializes, he'd approach it with respect and maturity. He highlighted his strong friendship with both Islam and Khabib Nurmagomedov, making it clear that any showdown would be handled professionally.
One of those things that it's one of those things that we'd have to talk about. Obviously, that's a blockbuster fight, former pound for pound and the current pound for pound champion. that's something we have to talk about, because Islam, I love those guys. Islam, Habib, I love them all. Unlike the situation.
So many pay-per-view?
Me, you? Yes. Because I come by then. If you have belt, me, you fight.
You come 155.
You be big. No, no. Middleweight. You middleweight. You see how big he is?
No, I'm
small. See how big he is? He taller than me too. Yeah.
Beyond professionalism, Usman pointed to the mutual gain, expressing confidence that they would deliver a massive fight for the fans and secure big paydays for themselves. When the moment comes, Usman assured he's ready to have that conversation with Islam and do what's best for both of them.
It's a little different situation with Islam. But Henry, like, we remember having a sit down with Mike Tyson. If some of you hadn't seen that episode, you can go back, look in our catalog and go back and watch that episode with Mike Tyson. Remember what Mike Tyson said, Henry?
Yeah, he said we asked him about Roy Jones, and I'm like, yeah, he's my friend. Like, why wouldn't you want to make money with your friend?
Friends make friends rich.
Yeah.
And hey, if that's the situation, then obviously I think Islam and I are mature enough to have a conversation about that.
So what I'm saying, Kamaru, is you'll be open to it when the time comes.
I don't see why not.
Woo!
I don't see why not. But listen, like I said,
that fight right there, Kamaru. Can I tell you something?
We have to have a conversation about it.
Further weighing in on the scenario, Javier Mendez responded to Kamaru Usman's interest in challenging Islam Makhachev for the title, acknowledging that while the matchup is intriguing, it ultimately comes down to what the UFC wants to see happen. Mendez noted that other names like Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Gary are also in the mix as potential challengers. Given the current landscape at welterweight, he pointed out there's no shortage of marquee fights the promotion could line up, creating a hotbed for big matchups in the months ahead.
Possible. It depends what the UFC thinks. I mean, I think Shavkat needs to be considered. Also, Ian Gary, Bilal Muhammad also too, if maybe he wants to be back in the picture. Who knows? I mean, this division, the welterweight division, has become the hotbed for the UFC at the present time, in my opinion. There's so many marquee fights they can make from there, and let's see what they want to do. But I mean, there's so much that can happen.
Building on that, Henry Cejudo weighed in, throwing his support behind Usman. Cejudo pointed to Usman's superior wrestling, sharper striking, and natural size advantage as key factors that could tip the scales in his favor. Interestingly, Usman himself downplayed any talk of a physical edge, suggesting that Makhachev would adjust just fine and fill out his frame at welterweight, setting the stage for an even more intriguing and evenly matched showdown.
That fight right there, because your wrestling is you know what I'm saying? Like, your wrestling's probably better than Islam's, and you're bigger, and you throw hands really good.
I don't know if I'm bigger. Listen, Islam is no small dude. Listen, Islam is not small. Islam will fill out nicely in the welterweight division.
No, and I guess we'll cross that road when we get there.
Looking ahead to timing, Daniel Cormier speculated that the bout could land in the late fall or early winter. DC suggested it might even headline one of the big end-of-year pay-per-view events in Las Vegas. While several cards could host the matchup, Cormier believes it's likely to align with one of the final major fight cards of the calendar year.
Islam's getting that title fight against Jack Della Maddalena. I imagine that's going to be somewhere in the late fall, early winter, maybe Madison Square Garden, maybe that end of the year pay-per-view in Las Vegas. There are many cards for him to fight, but I think it'll fall in line with one of those last couple fight cards of the year.
Building on that analysis, Demetrius Johnson expressed his excitement for the potential showdown between Islam and JDM, calling it a matchup he's genuinely eager to see unfold. Johnson highlighted that Makhachev has rightfully earned this stage and pointed out the intriguing stylistic similarities between the two fighters, both dynamic, well-rounded, and technically sharp. In Johnson's view, fans are in for a treat with a high-level showcase of movement, precision, and elite MMA mastery on full display.
Here we go. I do love this. I do respect this about Dana White. He did said that, if Jack Dela wins, he will give Islam Makhachev the opportunity to go up and fight for the 170-pound belt, which I think Islam Makhachev has done enough. He's beat Volk twice. He's beat pretty much everybody in the lightweight division. Charles Oliveira, he hasn't fought Justin Gaethje. I think it's time for him to have the opportunity to become a double champ. And I like this fight a lot. I like it a lot because, you know, they both move good on the feet. They both move a lot. Body kicks. You can definitely see Islam go for a double leg takedown, uses judo, his wrestling. And how would Jack Dela respond? Jack Dela's crisp on the feet as well with his hands and straight punches. They're both big 170ers, and I'm excited for this fight.
Meanwhile, evaluating the looming challenge, Jack Dela Matalena did not shy away from talking about Islam's skill set. He described Makhachev as a more refined version of Belal Muhammad, suggesting that Islam's striking is more predictable, though still effective. Despite recognizing the enormous challenge, JDM expressed confidence, saying he plans to analyze Islam's previous performances and devise a surgical game plan for their impending showdown.
I think Islam Makhachev is a better version of Belal. I think his striking on the feet is I think it's easier. The striking on the feet, I think it's easier than Belal because he'll stay in one stance. He's more traditional style. But yeah, he's the pound for pound #1, so it's a tough fight. But I guess we'll just watch all these fights again, make a solid game plan, and then just start working at it. From pretty much now, I'm going to start working on ways to beat him, different ways to get back to my feet, stuff in the takedown. But I'm pretty confident I can get this one done.
In contrast, MMA Guru delivered a more contrarian take. While he acknowledged Islam's world-class grappling, he sided with JDM, arguing that Makhachev would not land a meaningful shot due to Jack's elusive defense and high fight IQ. According to Guru, JDM is notoriously hard to rattle or catch clean.
But Makhachev, Dela Matalena, I'm going to go with Dela Matalena here in this matchup. I think JDM wins. I really think he did a lot better against Belal than people gave him credit for. I'm going to go with JDM over Makhachev. I know Makhachev's got good grappling. So does Belal. You know, he dominated a lot of opponents on a come up in the welterweight division. I know Makhachev's got decent striking, but I just feel like Makhachev ain't going to land a punch on JDM that gets his reaction. It's so hard to catch JDM with something he never saw coming, with something that's going to shock him enough to wobble him or drop him or make him second guess himself. He's at complete control of not getting hit by those shots.
However, Chael Sonnen shared a contrasting perspective, expressing his lack of enthusiasm for the potential matchup between Islam Makhachev and Jack Dela Matalena. Sonnen argued that the fight isn't generating much excitement among fans either, suggesting that it lacks the buzz expected for a bout at this level.
What a difference. I mean, what do you guys think of that fight? You want to get into that? You want to go back and forth? Now, I realize you're not excited for the fight. I get it. I'm not excited for it either. But that doesn't mean it's not a great fight, right? Those are two very different conversations. And would we have cared about that fight if Islam moved up? Belal was hurt, so we're just gonna go Islam versus Jack. We'll put the belt up. We'll put up an intra belt. Whatever it is, we're gonna solve the belt problem. We're gonna make it a big fight. But it's going to be Islam versus Jack.
In the end, Daniel Cormier's shock at the idea of Islam Makhachev having just 3 fights left serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly the sport can change. What began as disbelief has sparked a deeper conversation about what Makhachev's exit could mean for the UFC's future. As fans, we now stand at the edge of a possible new era, one where the departure of a dominant force like Islam might truly reshape the landscape of mixed martial arts. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more exclusive MMA insights, and drop a comment below. Do you think Islam Makhachev really only has 3 fights left, or is there more to his story? Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on the biggest fights and shocking moments in the fight game.